So who's the co-chair or the second? There you go.
Jody.
It is,
Oh, that was,
is Tom not gonna be here?
I don't know, though I just got back from billing, so he may have left me a message, but if he did, I haven't got it.
Well, I guess we can go ahead and start. We can take over. This is just a continuation of our last meeting, correct? It's not a brand new one.
Correct.
Correct.
I know we were all, had some tasks in front of us, so. Jeremy had sent me over, the West Yellowstone resolutions that are going to be on their ballot, I guess, as far as I know, they're going on the ballot this November. There's two of them, one for the 3% and one for the 1%. They're asking for both right away. It's really interesting, on how broad they are. Basically, on their 3%, it's almost as if they can use it for anything the city or that area deems necessary.
That's-
almost.
Yeah, they mostly
They
fund
were
their
very-
their general fund items
Yeah.
are mostly funded through
Right.
resort tax.
You have one that's for the 3%?
Do you have 733 and 734?
I have only 734.
Okay, here's 733.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry. The 1%, they listed 5 different projects, not just one. So that would be very good news for us because we may only have to put, if we have 2 different projects we want, we may only have to put, we could put them both on the same ballot for the 1%. Jeremy, I mean, he's right, it's very interesting how broad they did it and how, especially on 1%, where they said, needed and contemplated by the city,
Yeah, that's
by the
crazy.
town of West Yellowstone.
What if they're wrong, how do we do it?
Well,
Because that's not how I understood it.
I know, I think it got changed kind of late in the process. I did attach Senate Bill 241, I found that online and got it for you. If you look on page 3 of that, towards the bottom on D, that's underlined, it says, if the petition or resolution includes the additional tax provided for in 76-1503, the revenue from the additional tax must be designated for infrastructure, and the specific uses, plural, must be identified in the petition or resolution. So they got a lot more generous towards the end, it looks like, than what discussion had been almost throughout the entire process when the bill was getting written. Because for most of the process, the talk was that you would have to pick one project, and you could only do that 1% for that one specific project, and then once it was paid off, you'd have to go out and ask again. So they've, it changed quite a bit from that.
Hi, Tom.
Hello, I apologize for being late.
That's great.
It's actually in my email. I was sitting in my office reading my email from Jeremy that said he wasn't gonna make tonight's meeting, and I'm like, I better go.
Sneaked up on you.
Yeah, it did, yes.
And we were actually just discussing what he had sent over on, the 2 ballot measures that West Yellowstone, one for
Great.
their renewal and one for the 1%. They're very general, and the 1% has 5 different projects listed on it, not just one,
Yeah,
so.
So that also means that you don't have to have, you can go from one to the next one without revoting.
Exactly.
Right, or, I mean, I think you could
Multiple.
fund 2 things at once.
yeah. Yeah, I think, so the way I read it, and I'm reading the law, you know, the legislation, not the law, it's not codified yet, but is that what the 1% is focused on is something that it's a little flexible, but it's generally the concept is it's something you would bond. So that if you were selling bonds for it, you can repay the bonds with the 1%. So as long as you can bundle, essentially you have to bundle the projects. But you could also probably, as long as they were voted on, go from one, you know, you could do one and then the next. As long as that's what they were, you know, do them sequentially, does that make sense? But I think ideally it's designed to be done as a single.
Well, and they actually did this until December 31st, 2045.
Yeah,
They said, under no circumstances will the 1% continue beyond December 31st, 2045. So they gave themselves 5 pretty big projects, but they get to collect the 1%.
which is scary, that's only 25 years from now.
I know, right? It's really not that long.
Seems like-
It seems like long because I probably won't be here.
Yeah.
I know, it is 25 years though, I mean, they
Yeah.
did,
I wonder if they're planning to bond, to get, loans for all those things and plan to have them paid off in 25 years.
They probably could, I mean, what is their, 1% is gonna be almost $1 million a year for them.
Yep.
So you're looking at $25 million plus probably.
Yeah, they collect.
Building of town streets and stuff.
I think that's a poor choice of phrase, if you ask me, under no circumstance,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it says unless,
There's
there's a circumstance.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
unless again approved by the
Yes.
electorate,
Right.
so it has to go before.
It has to go back in front of voters in
Yeah.
25 years.
Yeah,
kinda like ours.
yeah.
Do you know what their vote date is? Does it say anything?
They're voting on it this November,
Okay, so they got. the
and,
vote.
I think the 1% goes into effect right
Yeah, it says
away,
January 1st,
January
2020.
but the 3% isn't until, January of 2026,
Yeah, when their current one
yeah.
expires.
They said it pre-passed.
Well, it clearly shows that they have moved forward on this quickly,
Mhm.
and, I think, like Colleen said, that there's not a lot of, they didn't overthink it, let's just put it that way.
And I really like the 3% and how it's written. I don't know if our electorate would go for it being written that way. That broad, if they still wanna have more of that control in where it's being spent. Says it, revenue may be used for any lawful purpose for which the town may expend funds.
It's pretty broad, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's the way the state one is written,
Is it?
in lawful purpose.
So as long as it matches Montana code, city can.
Now, and I think that that's something that should be on our list as a possibility, to be honest with you, and here's the logic with that is that, it gives ultimately the community the flexibility to then put the money where the community feels like it should go. So that's the,
And
there's.
your representative on the council
Is-
is your voice.
Yeah, and you can show up and, and you can change your council if you feel like they're not doing what you asked. I mean, there's still a lot of power for the people in that option. And so I think it should be something we should at least consider, I think it should be on our list of things that we might do.
Well, and I think it'd be really nice if we could get at least like, say, 10% allocated for that kind of
Yeah,
language, just because, infrastructure projects come up. We don't always know what we're gonna need the money for in 4 or 5 years, so if 100% of the money is allocated to specific projects, that say 20% is going towards water and sewer, 20% to parks, et cetera, and then we get to 100%, and then there's zero leeway for projects or emergencies that might come up.
yeah. Well, there's also no flexibility to future councils.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. There's
Yeah,
zero
yeah.
flexibility.
I mean,
Can I ask one? Is that the 3% that you're talking about, that they just have it written up that it can go for anything?
Yep.
Like,
Exactly, as long as it's lawfully.
their property taxes are like, the mills they're low in West Yellowstone. Because most of all their departments, all of their general fund stuff comes out of resort tax.
I think
That's
Yeah, it
great.
says resort tax revenue will continue to be used each year to ensure the town's property taxes remain low.
I wish I had the actual number, cause it's like below 50 mils.
And there, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, they're raising such a million.
Yeah.
4 million.
I thought it was close, yeah, I thought it was
It's like,
close to
yeah, 4
4.
million a year. You know, the nice thing is about the way they're doing it is that we wouldn't have these huge cuts in parks, streets, and all that stuff. We have this money to
Well,
I
use.
think it'd be great if it all went for general fund things. You bet.
They do, in Whitefish, they have a huge amount that goes back for property tax relief. I thought that was.
You get
really-
25%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
And
In
20
2000,
and 75 for streets.
yeah, so they paid in 2013 over 14 million to streets, over 6 million back for property tax relief, and then 784,000 for park improvements. Well, that was since 1996 through 2013.
How much in property tax?
25.
West Yellowstone actually only does 5%.
Yeah, but
But they don't have
they
to.
just don't, they've lowered their mills so much.
Yeah, so it all, you know, I mean,
It's kinda.
some of it's just on how you list it and how you couch it, I think, is really, you can, you know, if you don't raise taxes because you have the resort tax, is that the same thing as property tax relief?
Mhm.
Well, kind of, right? You know, or if you don't levy all the taxes you have to because you don't need it, that's the same thing. Or if you actually dedicate it towards property tax relief and then you say that you're gonna do 100 mills, but you put 25% to property tax, so now you only do 50 mills. It's just different ways of listing, doing exactly the same thing.
In 1996, they dropped their mills from 75 to 44. And that year, $1.4 million was collected in resort tax. And then in 2002, the resort tax went to 1.7 and they dropped the mill to 43%,
43 mills.
or 43 mills.
So just to put that in perspective, we levy about 110 mills.
Yeah.
Currently. So, you know, if you think about, and that 110 mills brings in about $600,000, is that the correct statement? Somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 is what that brings in. So, you know, even when you start thinking about that drop of 110 mills to say 50 mills, so you drop it by 50 to 155 mills, that's only $250,000 in the grand scheme of, you know, you're talking about how those mill, you know, how much the resort tax brings in. Even our resort tax currently bringing in close to $1 million, and what's the
Yeah, it's about 750.
Oh, I thought we
It
were
was
844.
844. Okay, 844. So, and then we were at what we were on the first year. 470. So we're almost doubled in that time, which just the increase from when we started to now almost represents the entire amount of our tax. It's broad round numbers that we bring in property taxes. Does that make sense? So you just see the power of the resort tax when you think of it that way, you know. And our property taxes are less than Laurel or Billings by we're about 30% less than Laurel or Billings in terms of city property taxes. They levy 150 plus mills.
They have streetlight districts, street maintenance districts.
Yeah, on top of that,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Yeah, that's just the general fund now.
Oh, okay.
I also thought it was interesting, I think it's Gardner, that Charter only applies the resort tax for 4 months out of the year. From June until, yeah.
There's nobody there the rest of the time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Is what they're saying.
Yeah, that's what they're
exactly.
saying.
Yeah, but they still collected like 400.
Isn't that open though in the winter?
It is open, that entrance is open, but
I'm
they-
sure the numbers dropped.
the numbers drop significantly.
Yeah, it's like a thoroughfare, that's what it's Cook City.
Yeah. So it's just a way, I think, that they were able to get it passed. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, it's truly, you know, like tourism tax, not a
Mhm.
local tax in that sense. But we have skiing and everything here too, so.
Yeah, and our goal is to be 4 months out of the year.
No, our goal is to be 12. That's it.
And double.
Destination.
Not percentage wise, money wise.
What do other people do with, the percentage for, say, merchant admin?
Well, I noticed West is only 2.5%.
2.5, yeah.
Yeah, and I
Or
think
5.
that's what it is. And
What?
Did you add merchant admin into your thing?
Yeah. And it's, that, you know, it's a total of 667,000, or, you know, if you projecting onto an $850,000 a year, it'd be $41,000 in staying with merchants. And, you know, 124,000 is the property tax. Property tax in general fund, with the 15%. What does anybody think would happen if you, with the 5% seems high to me, the 15% seems high to me, and it seems like if you were, you know, to use in that,
Big Sky is 5,
if all the money went into the general fund,
Whitefish is 5, Big Sky
and it
is
was,
5.
and the general fund was being managed properly, then it would benefit the town. You know, and that's, and I think that's the goal of the council, I'm guessing.
I think that would.
Some members.
That would benefit the town, and people wouldn't see that big of a difference, because really, the property tax relief happened last year, so. I mean, if we just
Somebody
rolled
said
that,
$50 or something?
that's what Tom, I think, said, I didn't
Depends on
check
the
on.
value
It
of your
depends on the value of homes.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was one of, Jeremy's, missions, and I don't know if he got that in his email, but that was one of the things he was gonna do was,
House.
give us, he was gonna look up the average value, average home value, taxable value. I don't think I saw an answer from him on that yet.
Yeah, he was gonna look at that.
So we will find that out so we can answer that. You know, and there's two. We should probably need to look at average and median. You know, so we really though, the number you look at typically is median, not average. So that you're looking at the middle, not the, you know, that's not skewed by higher lows.
$5 million
Yeah.
loss, and now you're gonna.
Yeah.
it's close to it.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of those in town, but, you know. just-
No,
And the question I think obviously is in those numberings is can you look at just homes and not commercial businesses and not vacant lots? You know, because those obviously might skew things one direction or the other just a little bit.
Back to Tim's point, what would you suggest to be lowered to if you wanted to attack the idea of lowering it?
Well, I think whatever the lowest in the state is, or.
2.5.
It probably is the 2.5.
Well,
2.5 for property tax relief, or?
No, no.
For the merchant
Merchants.
admin?
Merchant admin. I mean, is it,
We donate ours, so. Cause it's not that much.
It's not, yeah, I
mean.
I
you're
would
the
tell me
biggest collector,
for me personally I would not be opposed to that.
It would be interesting to walk up and downtown
And see if that's a big
see if it's
issue
a
for
game
folks.
changer.
And I think you might find that there are, you know, a business, if you're struggling, every penny counts, and so that might be a game changer for,
I mean, is that a
for some.
difference, would that pay for their chamber fees, would that change for their business alliance, you know, dues, would that, you know?
Yeah.
How, where that money's being used to market Bud Lodge, I mean, would they, you know, I guess, would you say, ask them? Cause there are some businesses that, you know, they submit that they can't afford to join the chamber, or they can't afford to join the business alliance, the downtown, you know.
Especially if they're brand new to business.
Yeah, I think that's, but it's again, I think, you know, we've said everything's on the table, right? So we should, you know, we definitely have to have that. It looks like 5 is pretty typical, but.
I don't know that I'm advocating it for it as much as asking.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable ask. I mean, I really do think it's a reasonable ask, because then what you're looking at is you're saying that that more of it goes to the greater good, right? You know, that's the hope, is that what we're doing is I think that what we have to show is that the tax produces value for the people in the community. And I think that if we can show it produces value, then, you know, we're all better off. And that's really what we want to do. And I think that that's the, and here's maybe the answer to an earlier question is, who is best to trust with ensuring that we show value? Do we need, as an organization here, or does the council, or do we vote? Do we vote on kind of saying where that money gets put, in a framework to show value? Or do you say, like that West Yellowstone did, to say, we should show value almost on a yearly basis? If you give more power to the council, you really put the opportunity to show value there in the hands of the people on a more regular basis, because they can adjust it more and say. Now, where you struggle with sometimes is if a council commits,
Down the road,
well, loans, to, big loans you do a big project.
Can't change that.
You can, but you have to change it by raising taxes.
Yeah, right.
Or cutting services, one of the
You
two.
can't change it easily.
That's probably good. That's probably an accurate way to say that.
What, I think you can have both. If you put it into the general fund, the city, it would require the city to say what was spent, how it was spent.
Yeah.
Then you have both, they can take care of what's important that particular year, but also show that they weren't just, we see it, everybody sees it. It's just like the city's got this money, I've got this idea on how we should spend it. So I come in and talk to the council, and I have a couple of people on my side. Most of them are projects. And so that would be, to me, would be the danger of just dumping it into the general fund.
Do you want to write, or you want?
All right.
Probably better for everyone. I was just thinking that maybe we want to start one up there that is just methods, methods of division. That first one is, fully open. I don't know how you would call that, right? But, within the law.
No constraints?
Yeah, what's that?
constraints.
No constraints, yeah.
Yeah, except by.
By state law,
By state statute.
by state statute, yeah.
Any lawful purpose.
Any lawful purpose, yeah.
Percentages.
One is by percentages, and I think percentages has two things. One is minimums and maximums, right? Because and those are kind of two different things. We talked about this a little bit. If you say 20% to streets, does that mean 20% has to go to streets? Or are you saying a maximum of 20% can go to streets? Because if you do, because if you do up tos, right, then you have to have, you could have 500%, right? Because you could have up to 20% for streets, up to 50% for this, up to 50% for that, and it's.
And so you don't have to.
You don't have to spend it on that. You can, that.
It.
Yeah. Where minimums, you would say it's a minimum of 20% goes to streets. And then, again, you wouldn't, if you did minimums, you would not be able to have 100%, right? Like you have, if you said a minimum of 10% must go to parks, or a minimum of 15% must go to property tax relief, so just two different methods. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's just some thoughts there.
Actually, then the maximums, they could be over 100%.
Yeah, maximums can be over.
I'm just saying like,
Oh.
Yeah.
maximums would be
Oh,
like,
you
you would,
just
you would
did it.
set like up to 10%.
Oh,
Is that, isn't that what you
Yeah,
said?
yes.
I'm not
yeah.
working with 100%, so I'm just working with a 10%.
Yes, yes, exactly, up to 10%, yep, or at least
Or at least
10%, yep,
10%.
yes, yep.
But if you set at least a certain amount, you would eventually get to 100.
Well,
You
but you
would
wouldn't,
have
you wouldn't
to.
want to, in theory, I
Or
don't
would
think.
you just not have have them all hit 100?
Yeah, you
And
would,
then you
Might
could
leave
like,
10%.
yeah, you might leave 10, 20, 30%.
okay, on
you
the
know.
board for.
And you could theoretically do both of those in the same ordinance.
Yeah, right.
You know, you could say, you know,
So
you may say exactly 5% must go to the merchant, right? You know, that's kind of a minimum maximum, that's saying, you know, and you could say in the same ordinance, you know, at least 10% must go to parks, and no more than 10% can go to water, right? Like, you know, you
I'm making it
could.
really confusing.
It would be, but I'm saying, you know, you could mix and
Use
match
both.
those.
But if
We'll
you
be bringing
did
in the
some
high
of
school
that
math
in there,
Yeah.
people would know that the parks could get some funding, or, you know,
Yes.
the parks were important and they wanted that, or if they wanted.
And then maybe a third method is just, and I think this is a little bit more like our current method. It provides guidelines. Right.
That was our ballot, right there.
Yeah, so there's some there's, you know, some exact ones, right? 1% for admin, 5% for collection fees, 15% for road taxes, and 79% for capital improvements to streets, water, sewer, parks, and sports.
And that's why we got in trouble, because we actually said capital improvements,
That's it, it's exactly,
right
it's,
there on ballot.
yes, yep, that's.
Yep.
I don't wanna say that's a mistake, it's a constraint it was a constraint that maybe we didn't realize the limitations that provided. Yep.
Now you're working on straining our eyes there.
Sorry. I just put these up here because that one was exact, so that was like 1% went to admin, 5% went to merchants, and 15% for property tax.
Yeah.
Just to lay out how we do it now.
Yeah,
And then the 79% for capital improvements.
yeah. And so, you know, again,
Wanna
just
make
in
sure
that mix and match world, you could say, you know, some exact, you know, 1%, 5%, 10%, and, you know, 79% for anything that's allowed by law, right? Like, you know, I mean, but, you know, there's, unfortunately, there's lots of opportunity here, to do different options.
It's a good point, mix and match mix it up a little bit.
Let me just step back and look at our agenda since I came slightly late today. I apologize for that. Again, do we had talked about a couple things, and maybe we should just come back to some of our plans and just, Colleen, I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind keeping an action items list.
Okay,
And we kind of have that on our board, but we can be a little bit more specific. And, you know, I almost would like to, if it's okay with everyone, start the meeting with action items.
Okay.
So, you know, like if you know, Jeremy was supposed to get resolution, so he did. So we can say, all right, that, you know, and then we can say this action items is complete or it's not complete. And then we can kind of keep our action item list so that we don't have too many things we're working on at once. But we know that we're continually accomplishing and have some record of things that we have accomplished. Is that reasonable for everybody?
Yep.
So we'll try to kind of rebuild that a little bit from last time, and maybe I see Tim ready with some information. Do you want to start since you had some things?
Yeah, when the spreadsheets that are on the website, the one we can publicize has the 5% in there.
It does.
yes.
Okay,
That is the gross amount.
okay, that's very helpful.
And then, obviously with the budget, that 5% and the 1% comes out.
Yeah.
And then it's just, I added it into the spreadsheet, but it's only based off of the collections that was there, so, it's semi-accurate. It gives an understanding of what actually, how the money was spent, a little more clear.
But we seem to be still off by a little bit of money, is that?
Yeah, and that's gonna be, that the income, I think, the number that I found was only through first quarter of 19.
Okay,
So, that will never be, you should never have a spreadsheet that looks like this
yeah.
for public.
Well, and maybe
It's
we
never
would,
gonna be right.
maybe what we would wanna do is put this out and we would talk about the expenses and we would say, approximate, resort tax expenses, so we just wanna be careful about saying that this is exactly what happened as opposed to,
Right.
just making sure we couch it that way so people aren't like, well, we saw $5.36 was spent on this and you guys didn't, it's like, okay, this is why we said approximate, because we're not, we're not the accountants, this is not audited, this is generally what we think has happened.
And there's a pretty detailed report behind it if somebody ever, that 30 minute in, but it really helped me to see how the money was spent.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you look at the $2 million, I thought this was significant. But between the amount that's gone to the property general fund or to property tax relief, depending on, the date, $2 million is a lot. If we had not put that money into that, there would have been some serious hardships in City Hall.
Or mill increases.
Or mill increases.
Or mill increases.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that represents close to 4 years of a complete general fund property tax revenue. So that's a lot.
And that, I think it's worth having in the discussion that, when we have a public forum, to hear their thoughts on that. And can it be pitched in a way that's understood? I mean, I get it. I'd honestly rather see the city have it than have $50 off of it. I'm just,
Yeah.
I think that figure's right. But that doesn't mean that much to me. Adding taxes means something to me.
Yeah. Yeah, like raising the taxes means something. Yeah, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The ability to
Raising the mills means something a lot.
Well, so, and also, it's kind of a work in, I don't want to say futility, but like to pass an election that gives you 15% tax relief and then go pass a mill levy increase that raises your taxes by 15%. Why do it, right?
Right, yeah,
Well,
but
and I think
other
that's-
than somebody could say, we lowered your property.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is significant too, is just seeing, that we're north of $13 million worth of revenue. And that's a lot of improvements.
Well, if you look at just it was over $6 million for water sewer, over $2 million for streets, $952,000 for parks. Those are some significant numbers.
Yeah.
So,
One of your, just getting back to our action items things, you were gonna check on the number of sewer water hookups.
So inside the city limits, we have 1,646 water, 1,652 sewer
Okay.
hookups. Outside the city limits, we have 7 on water, 63 on sewer,
Okay.
and then we have 526 vacant lots in the city.
Within the cities.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
526 vacant lots.
Well, aren't there 200 at the Spires?
Yeah, most of that's at the Spires. And this is Remington mostly.
Yeah.
And Woodlands.
Be 64.
And what?
Woodlands.
Oh, yeah. And these people have wells.
It's knowledge. They have sewer hookups.
These
Oh, wow.
6 people
6 people are on wells.
are on wells. Might change.
Yeah,
Because Mike
it's
is
by
getting
one.
a hookup.
Here's just an interesting fact. So I just just because the power of numbers, the resort tax has, equals an investment of $4 million in, I just wanna make sure I'm doing this right, in water and, $4,000 per hookup, into water and sewer
Over the years.
over the years. So that's a significant,
It is.
right there is a significant savings, right? So that's also helped us.
Yeah, in the, what would happen if we lost it?
Exactly.
Yes,
a
that's-
good number
yes.
for there.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
including the vacant lots with the,
I'm not including the vacant lots.
because they pay property taxes.
No, yeah, no, this, I'm doing for
Just
water,
the-
I'm
just
doing for
water and
water
sewer.
and sewer hookup, do you know what I'm saying, water and sewer, fee, so that would be people paying water, vacant lots aren't paying water and sewer.
They actually
Yeah, they
do
are.
pay now,
They
just
are.
recently.
Oh, they just started that, yeah. Yeah.
A minimal amount. but-
Even when they're not hooked up?
Yeah.
How much do
Right.
they pay that?
I think it depends if they're serviced next to their lot,
Oh,
but I think it's $23, does that sound
I
right?
don't have it off the top. We were just talking about that this afternoon, and I don't have the number on top of my head.
Yeah.
I'll find out. I'll find out.
Is that on property taxes, how's that levy?
It's on their property taxes.
Comes on property taxes?
That started last year.
Basically, the theory behind that is we've got all these main lines throughout the neighborhoods that are deteriorating and we have to invest in.
Yeah.
And because we have so many vacant lots in town, that's pushing the users of the
Pay more.
system to pay more. So if you have the benefit of a more expensive
Yep.
value of a vacant lot if water and sewer is available, which it is.
Yes,
So
I
you should
agree.
pay it. So
I can see the logic there.
Yeah, I don't know what the base rate is, but
Yeah.
Would
So
one
that- I
of your
think that's
attempts to
good.
sell the resort tax be, cause it's not keeping the water and sewer rates down. I mean,
Well, it may not in the future, well, it is, I mean, there's,
Edge.
yeah, we're still saying that there's $250,000 a year that would go to water and sewer for, the foreseeable future, right? So if you
Yeah.
take that,
Tends to be-
250,000
so have you
divided
already decided on
by
that?
1646 equals, that's $151 a year
for
per
these people.
per water hookup, yeah. And if you multiply that times the next 25 years or however long that loan, there's another $4,000.
Did you say 151?
$151.
Seems like it should be more than that. Like, there's a lot more people hooked up probably than
Yeah.
there was, so.
But that's still a lot, I mean, per year. Again, when you start looking at property tax values too, and what, you wouldn't want your property taxes to go up by $151 a year like that.
No.
Just so you're aware too, the council has just discussed water and sewer will probably increase every year 2 to 3%. From now till.
Till, well, whenever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should.
It needs to.
Well, the price goes up for everything. I mean, you gotta pay health insurance, you gotta continue to fix things, the stuff to fix it isn't gonna get less expensive,
Well, then just
Wages, everything.
I just submitted a $240,000 grant for 2 blocks of water line replacement on Grant Avenue. And our 1994 PER says the cost will be $70,094. So in 25 years, the price has tripled.
yeah,
Inflation hasn't even doubled.
yeah.
So the inflation costs on infrastructure have just been astronomical.
It has doubled, it's basically just doubled.
Has it?
I only know that because I looked that up just an hour and a half ago. It's like,
In 25 years?
90%, since 1996, yeah.
Really?
25 years, yeah. So, okay, so that, I think all that's very helpful information. So, in terms of our action items from last time, we have gotten our lot numbers. We still need the median taxable value of the house. We found out, basically, we have a good sense for the division of the, where the resort tax has been spent so far. and how, you know, and what those numbers look like. What else was on our list in terms of, you know, information we wanted, since we're in the information gathering stage?
We wanted the information from the other towns, which we got.
Yep.
I do have the other towns here too, like Big Sky and Whitefish. and
Okay,
everything,
great.
so.
Diane went in and moved equipment and just where it belongs.
Yep, I think that's great.
So.
Yeah,
those-
whatever I knew went there. A lot of this
So
stuff.
that's where streets went up about $1 million.
Yeah, the plows.
Yeah, so anyway, that was one of the action items that Diane.
Well, and I think it's important, you know, one of the things that I was gonna suggest maybe to throw up on the action items is, you know, we kind of got it, you know, no, not put on the action item list, how's that? Is, you know, what are some of the significant things, you know, what are some of the wins in the resort tax? In terms of, you know, like, for me, having plowed streets is important. And having equipment that can plow the streets without breaking down, I think is important. And, you know, so, you know, what is, you know, the $6 million into water and sewer lines improvement that helped get us to where we are today, I think is important.
I think the park improvements, a lot of people have
Yes,
voiced their
yeah.
support for that and
Yep,
Yeah.
realize the improvements that have been done there.
yep. And I think this is where we're really gonna come into, you know, that debate of capital improvements, because to me, plowed streets is important, and that involves a plow truck, right? But my guess is we have not gotten to the point where they are Roombas and they plow themselves, right? You know, and so that probably does involve somebody sitting in that truck to drive it.
And that's becoming an issue, to pay for that.
It is becoming an issue, and to me, you know, when we have tourists come to town and they stay in a house or they stay in a hotel, they want to be able to walk from the Super 8 or the Beartooth Hideaway to the pizza company, and they should be able to do that on a sidewalk that doesn't have snow on it. You know, they should be able to not get their car stuck when they try to park downtown. You know? Did you put potholes? Is that what that says?
Positives.
Oh, positive, sorry.
All right, now, remember?
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't here, and I said, anybody questions how I spell or what I'm writing, you can be standing up.
No, trust me, I am questioning my eyesight, not what you wrote or how it's spelled. Probably should have brought my glasses. That helped me
I
out
could
a
write
lot.
clearer.
And I can't use my phone to look up the information we've got and then look up and see in the distance, so.
Get it focused.
Oop. So I think that should go on our action item list and we can assign it to somebody, but just kind of building that out a little bit. I mean, we kind of have it, but, you know, being able to, I think when we do a public meeting, I think at some point, we need to be able to show people really where the money has gone, you know?
That, you know, under that, putting it together as a report like Jeremy brought that, West Wilson did.
Yeah.
Just like the PowerPoint with pretty pictures.
Yeah, I think
This
that's,
is real stuff.
it is, yeah,
This
yeah.
is not this isn't a concept, this is, when you think about it. I mean, after this winter, I think about water on walk.
I bet you do, yeah.
When you turn on the faucet and clean, clear water comes out of there, then it's kind of a big deal.
Yes.
How long were you thinking about it? 10 years?
Did they get that done? Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Clean water.
Yeah, that's cool.
What I kind of liked was there were a lot of places out there that just had it right on their website with just like really pretty pictures and how much was spent for each project.
Yeah.
Like this was in Gardner's. Thought that was kind of cool. It just, you know, this is how we're spending the money.
And I've tasked Neil, my assistant, he's good on website work, he's gonna create a tab on the city's website where we can post whatever we want resort tax related, so he's gonna create a resort tax tab.
Perfect.
That's great, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
with all of these tasks and stuff that we're assigning to people, have you ever used HubSpot?
Use what?
HubSpot, it's a free program, and I just started using it in my business. But basically, it has everyone's email addresses in there, and we can all log in, and you can assign tasks to people, and you can attach all the emails, so it would all be there, all the information would be in one spot. And
And that's called HubSpot.
HubSpot, HUBSPOT, and it's.
There's an action item for Jody. It's all hooked up on HubSpot.
But it just, and you just assign tasks to people, or something, an email comes in, and you can just assign it to people, and then you can have your minutes in there, and so it'll have.
Or have the tasks listed out,
Right.
if you want to have one. It's
Right.
not taking this on.
You know what's interesting that they have a list of here, which I think is really kind of cool, and I don't know if they did this on purpose, but they have a list of things they did not fund.
Did not fund.
Yeah,
Because they get applications for.
Oh, yeah, because they get applications.
yeah,
Or
yeah. So yeah, I mean, but that's kind of interesting. Like, obviously it's not helpful for us today, but to have a list of things that over the last 20 years were not funded with resort tax that were requested or could have been, or things like that. That, I mean, I think that sometimes gives you a picture of the possibilities and also what's kind of where your limits sit, right?
Yeah, we didn't do that one.
I like the idea of your HubSpot. Shall we make that one of our
Yes.
action
Yeah.
items?
I think we should review it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It would be really nice to, because we're collecting so much information, you could
Yes.
have that
And
information
then
out there,
you can
and
have
everyone could access it without
links
having.
to
Yeah,
the things that you've printed.
so you don't have to
Links
try and
each one.
kill a tree every
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I started to print that spreadsheet, and there's something like 300 pages.
It's
Yeah.
not really
The only one that last tab is the only one.
The only one you really need.
Because the rest of them, is just like, yeah.
I was all in the print mode, and then it said one of 396.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's like, there's so much information there because it's like 20 years of information.
Yeah.
And then
All
it's
different
line
columns.
items within there, and it's great information, but you had to print it out.
Well, there's page after page after page of just
Yeah.
lines too.
Yeah, and you'd have to tape it all together.
Yeah.
So I think, if somebody wants to know, if you wanna know what's behind some of these numbers, digitally look at it.
One of the things we need to tell people too is the population of Red Lodge hasn't had much growth in the past 20 years.
You know what I found, that the figure that I found was 0.07%. Or 0.7%. But it was less than 1%. And then Bozeman in the same time frame grew 60%.
Yeah.
And most other towns were in the 10 to 15%, so Red Lodge did not grow much.
What?
I think we did grow though faster in terms of total housing units. I think, I could be wrong, you'd know this better than me, you probably would too, that the number of second homeowners has gone up.
Oh,
That I
absolutely.
don't doubt at all. That was one of the things I thought, it's like, where will, when I'm living in a Sprinter van, what will be my address?
Well, I mean, it's really a good question, because what happens is that, we probably now have 3 or 4 different kinds of, residents, right? So you have the people who obviously live here, they make a living here, that kind of stuff. You have people who part-time here, so they're here sometimes and they're here, let's say 6 months out of the year. You have the people who are very rarely, if occasionally here. So they have a house, they come for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're gone and the house is empty. And now you've got another huge calculation is homes that are actually commercial businesses. That they're using a house as an income source, as a commercial business for a VRBO, or to supplement their, it's functioning as a revenue source for them. So those are kind of different stages of folks, and only the people who live here full time are counted as residents.
Right. Yeah, I understand that, but It's just interesting that we have
Yeah.
that growth population.
And then
Although
this-
outside the city limits,
yeah.
right outside the city limits.
You know, honestly, I don't think you're gonna see a lot of additional growth even outside the city limits, you know, so I track housing, you know, numbers and the numbers of buildings that are constructed. And the number of buildings in the rural fire district as opposed to the city that get built in a given year are generally pretty close.
Although there has been a market increase this last summer, cause I think I
Remington
quoted-
Ranch has been
yeah, I
booming this
quoted,
last summer,
like,
yes.
way more buildings this policies than I ever have.
Absolutely, I would, but there was a time when,
Yeah.
yeah, there was a time when Langless was doing tons of homes up in the golf course, and
Right.
they would go up and put up 30 homes in a track, you know, and that added a lot to the city.
And there will be, I think, now in the spires too, there's gonna be a lot more builds up there too, right
Yeah.
between the Remington Ranch, I think we're gonna have a lot of growth in the next
Yeah.
couple of years.
526 is a lot of vacant lots, I mean, that have the potential to be built on without even adding anything new, so.
Yeah, I'm amazed that number is as big as it is.
Well, when you figure, you know, 200 of them or more are up at Spires
Yeah,
that already have all the infrastructure
Yeah.
ready to
That's
go.
still 300.
Well, there's a lot of lots for the golf course that are empty still.
All time.
Yeah.
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 Diamond Lakes is-
You look at
yeah.
Diamond Sea, I mean, most of those empty lots are golf course and
Yeah.
Spires.
And then you have some lots that, you know, I mean, we don't think of necessarily as vacant lots, but are, you know, I have a parking lot behind Pete's Company, it's 2 lots.
Yeah, some houses, they have a house on one lot and
Yep,
another vacant lot next to them, and most people would think it's just a large yard, but
Yeah.
it's 2 lots.
But if they're 25-foot wide lots,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's 7 houses on that.
Yeah, so there's some of that too, that they're vacant lots, but they're probably never gonna be built on because they're being used for other functional purposes.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what we have at the Spires and the golf course, and I don't know how much McKay's have along the bench, how many lots that is. But anyway.
Yeah, that,
Well, and there's some still over on by White, isn't there?
Mhm.
Yeah,
that's
I was
McKay's.
just kind of thinking some of the bench.
That's McKay's, yeah.
Oh, is that because, okay, I wasn't sure. who owned
Yeah.
that.
That doesn't have infrastructure though.
yeah.
These other two do.
So, let's talk about what information we, you know, if we're still in the information gathering stage, what information do we need? And we had talked about 2 things. One, you know, with regard to the public, is trying to, you know, have a meeting to get feedback from people to see what people think, you know, to see if we can get some of the folks who are for it or against it, or, you know, to show up. And then we had talked about a survey as a possibility. And you know, a question would be is, do we want to do a survey before we do a public meeting? Or do we want to do a public meeting before we do a survey? And this is a information gathering public meeting as opposed to here's what we think, here's
Right.
what we should do. You know, I think before we even start having a lot of conversations about, you know, this is how we think we should divide it up, we need to,
Yeah, you can't.
I think we have to get more information.
I think we need to educate the public before we survey them, because
Okay,
otherwise the survey is gonna be,
Yeah.
if they don't have the education of or the
Yeah.
information, then they're going off what they heard or what they think they know.
So when you say education, that's a public meeting?
Yeah, I think you start with, I think you build a presentation for a public meeting and then you also put it out into other
This is what we're
forums.
doing and here's why.
Yeah, yes,
And here's the information of what's happened.
yeah,
I don't know if the survey, I don't know if the public would need to be educated prior to the survey, because depends on how you write the questions.
Yeah.
If you make the questions more of an opinion-based answer, they don't need to know details. A lot of people aren't interested in details anyway.
Well, and the other thing is that we could get what people think is the
Exactly.
case and then present
And then,
really is the
and
case.
then that helps us with the public meeting
Yeah,
too.
helps you-
You
helps
can,
you
you can
with
find out where
presentation,
the mismatches are,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, and then you have, you can also present what the public opinion is, because it might be like completely opposite of what I think.
Yeah,
If I'm sitting in the audience and I think this is what it is, I think, wow, public perception, I know we're not even in the same realm.
Yeah, I
Makes
think
things
this
a lot easier.
survey would be, would serve us better to come the survey first and then the public meeting.
yes. I think maybe I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I think if the survey comes first, it should probably be types of questions that are saying, you know, are you happy with 30% going to this, minimum, max, that, but more just kind of gauging what they know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, would you support, wouldn't that be, would you support the following
Uh-huh.
division of things? It would be, do you believe the resort tax is positive for our community? Might be one of the, I could see asking that question, right? Overall, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being absolutely yes and 1 being no, do you believe the resort tax has been helpful for our community? Something like that to me is that they
Or you could also have a question that was based on a list of things, put these things in order of the importance to you.
yeah,
Right.
Mhm.
yes,
Property tax.
Then you're not talking about
parks,
yes,
percentages, or you say, do you
Right.
agree with this?
Just which ones
Yeah.
are more important to you.
yeah,
that's good.
What your
Rate
priorities?
your priorities, or rate
Emergency
your,
services, you
yeah,
know,
yes,
all of the
yeah. Considering
bugs.
possible uses of resort tax, how would you rate the Yeah, we have to decide how granular we get, do you say, streets and infrastructure, or do you say sidewalks, streets, road paving, how,
Well, and maybe you wanna know which of those are most important
Yeah.
to people. you know.
Educating the town, or, getting the word out of how much is being paid by visitors to the town. Would you have a question asking them what?
Yeah.
Is there a way to ask that question?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, here's a question,
Where is it?
are, comparing property tax and resort tax, are property taxes, 25% resort tax? 50, I wonder if you could ask a question like that to see if people have an understanding of the scope of
So
resort tax compared to property tax.
how much property tax did the city collect last year?
Yes, yeah, and how much resort tax did the property tax, yeah, and give them 5 numbers, like, 500,000, a million,
show.
yeah.
Well, that would make it more interesting,
Like, I guess I would like to know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When
like,
you
how
see a
much- I mean,
question
how
like
much
that, all of a
budget.
sudden you do wanna know.
Yeah.
How much did we
Yeah,
collect in
it's
property
about
tax?
600,000
In last year in property
last
tax?
in property tax, yeah.
And we collected 800 and something.
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, that's huge.
yeah,
People's,
And it, and that's, yeah, again, assuming that the city is spending the money exactly the way they should, where are you gonna come up with that?
$450 for each
Change it,
man,
like,
woman,
well,
and child.
okay, we're
Yeah.
free.
Per year.
We won't have a planning department, we won't have.
yeah, I
It'll
mean,
be a
again,
free-for-all.
I like the sewer water hookup, because it kind of gives me like a household thing, so if you take that, what did you say, it was 800 and how many thousand? 850?
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, divided by the 1646, we'll just use it, it's $516 per household is what you would have to raise in property taxes approximately
wow.
in order to get,
Wow.
on average,
Where we're at
in order
right
to get where we're at now.
That's
lot
a
of money.
good correlation, it needs to be somehow on
Yeah.
that.
Right,
Yes,
whether your water and sewer are gonna go up or your property, it would be a
a
combination
combination
of
of those, yeah.
both would go up.
I think the other thing we need to do, whether the survey or public meeting, is people might not agree with how the money was spent, but the majority of the money was spent according to the law.
Yeah,
That's, that's where.
Well, I think it was all
I'm not even sure most people who, and this is maybe a bold statement, but I think a lot of the folks, at least when I've heard people say, I feel like the resort tax money has been wasted, and you ask them how, they usually don't have an answer. They don't, it's just a feeling that they have, and when you talk to them about numbers and things like that, then they're like, oh yeah, I think that's good.
Well, and I think another thing is those people that have been around for a long time, when it was passed, it was always gonna be streets, sidewalks, streets and sidewalks, streets and sidewalks, and, that didn't happen.
Well,
It happened
the
for a little while,
ballot actually says, it lines out all of those
Yeah.
in our ballot.
but that was the,
It was,
So
it wasn't just.
I think one of the things we want to determine, I continue to ask this question more, and I think we should all do this, is trying to find out if people who aren't happy with it, how would they change it? And most of it, what I hear from the merchants who aren't happy with it is it's usually because they feel like it hurts their business. That's just a competitive advantage thing. But even the people that I know that they're not necessarily happy with it because they feel like it hurts, but they don't know, they don't think that the spending is, that the items that it was spent on were bad necessarily.
those merchants that aren't happy with it probably have a lot to do with their attitude about it and how they present it.
And that's the thing, it keeps coming back, if we don't have good public relations and tell them the amount of money that's being raised, and the increase in retail, and the increase in overnight visits, and the increase in, and all of this money, and a good figure of how much of it's coming from out of town, paying your taxes.
Yeah, that's really what's happening,
Mhm.
yes.
Well, you figure 850,000 is 3% of the income that came in, that's huge.
Yeah, actually, when you do that reverse number, right, what's
Yeah.
that reverse number?
I promise I'd never bring this up, but in Bozeman and Billings, they can't get a resort tax. So they're going after the T-bid funds.
Yeah.
And
It's
we have, we have
28.
a really good asset.
$28 million worth of revenue coming into Red Lodge that was taxable.
That's huge.
That's a lot of, that's a lot of jobs, a lot of people, it's
The
a lot of,
taxable ones.
and that's just the
because
tax.
There's a lot of, there's a lot of items that you can buy,
Yeah,
Right.
clothing items that
Yeah.
you can buy that aren't gonna be taxed.
in a year, and and so, one of the things that you talk about is, if you can, increase that, if we can increase our resort tax by 25% over the next 10 years even, that represents another $7 million a year in revenue.
One of the things Tim said about the T-bid in Billings and Bozeman is that's why they have street districts and all those other districts, sidewalk districts, is because they don't have resort tax.
Yeah.
So that is something that we should remember too.
Why can they not get resort tax?
It's based on the size of your town.
And the
Over
location.
10,000 people.
Did they increase it to 10?
Industry, your location to a ski
It's
area.
been 10,000.
Isn't that what it is, the location to a ski area?
Some of it for the.
Yellowstone?
You have to look at that.
Your location to
The ski area, national park.
The other big towns in the state are trying to get that. They're trying to get the legislature to pass it so that Billings can go ahead and put it to the voters and see if they can
But there's a size limitation.
I see.
Can't remember, it might have gone.
I think it's
Because of
10, because
the
Whitefish has
tourism
70
on the
million
infrastructure.
Yeah.
and they're still under. But they're
So
trying to
10,000 is the,
maximum population. you
maximum
can have.
population that can,
Yeah.
I see.
So when you got a town the size of Red Lodge that increases, that has the amount of tourism, it'd be, it's a hardship. So collect the money from them.
So let's come back, so we've talked about how do we get public feedback is kind of what, and this first one was our question over here, and this is what we've been talking about over here. And, are we ready to start to kind of plan for that? What information more do we need that we don't have? Granted, I know we need to put the information together, but do we have big questions that we need answered in order to, besides, how does our community really think?
Are we going to get into the minutia of the items that are taxed?
No.
Because the reason I ask that is because a good idea would be for those that are possibly against the resort tax, and I can't imagine there would be many, but would we not assume that they think, the word tax, it's, I'm paying this, I'm paying the tax. Would we not benefit by pointing out to them the percentage of the payment of the resort tax is coming from the tourists?
Right, yeah, that's definitely part of the education.
So that they
part.
understand that the money is not coming out of our pockets as much as it is
Well, and I
primarily the
think we
tourists.
do need to educate, bring up that educational part of it. I don't think we're not gonna change what's already taxed with our group. I think that's kind of what we all decided.
Yeah, it's
We didn't wanna
way down
tackle,
there.
yeah, but, definitely, we wanna educate people. If you don't wanna pay the tax, you absolutely can make it so you don't have to pay the tax in Red Lodge, because of the things that are taxed are not necessities of life.
Yeah.
That's one of the difference in West Yellowstone too,
Yeah,
because they tax everything.
everything, yeah, they absolutely do, and a lot of them tax nonprofits. It's everything, so if you're a nonprofit and you have a bake sale, you get taxed.
So
It's absolutely.
is it,
that way.
I don't, maybe it'd be too difficult to do, but is there some way to get an guesstimate of what the average person in Red Lodge pays in resort tax?
Yeah, something like that is what
I
I was
don't know that
talking
we
about.
can really come up with those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
You know,
I
the
mean, at
only
least
thing
that's
I
the
think
thing.
we can really definitively say.
Yeah, for me, it's not much, because I almost never go out to eat.
I was gonna say, you don't drink?
I don't, no, I don't.
They
The
quit
last,
Black
I
Friday
can't
lunch
tell you,
before.
well,
You
I
did?
did. To just go to a bar and drink, no.
But like Tom, you
Beer
can't
with
break
dinner.
down.
The thing is, with people
What
that live
percent?
here, we can make that, we can make that choice. We know that with the taxes there, if I choose to go out to dinner, it's because I wanna go out to dinner, I'm gonna pay the tax, but
I choose.
Yeah,
to
I
buy
think the
chicken.
thing is that, I think one of the things to recognize is that the folks who live here do pay some of the tax.
sure.
But the thing is if we didn't have the resort tax, they would have to pay all of the tax.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the difference, is that,
Yeah.
yes, you are paying the tax, but if you didn't, you would have to pay it all, because, or none of this stuff would get done. And
Well, I think
so,
you absolutely can tell a little bit just by looking at the slow quarters versus the busy quarter.
And the other
Yeah.
place you
And
can really
absolutely
tell
those
is
differences.
Yeah.
hotels, you
The
can.
motels, yeah.
yeah, you can take motel out, because probably nobody, as a general, rule, is staying in a motel.
And
So
that's-
could you go in your restaurants and pull the numbers of how many meals are served that somebody pays for and they use their points, or they are in their club? That would indicate a local.
A percentage, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and get a
yes,
rough
yes and no,
percentage.
actually, we have a lot of folks from Billings
Oh, that
who are part of that points system. Now, they come to Red Lodge a lot, so a lot of them have houses here, and, as we've already discussed, a lot of folks from Billings have houses here. But we definitely have, a lot of regular folks who come from Billings, Cody, Powell.
Is the resort tax broken out by month or just quarter?
Quarter.
Because we submit by quarter, and we don't even, when a business submits, we don't even tell the city how it breaks down by month.
That would be nice.
Couldn't
I-
we do that?
I would love to see us do some improvements to reporting to get more, to be able to get more information that I think would also help the businesses. If we had it more by month, then we could actually track our business by month as opposed to by quarter. And then the other thing I would like to see is right now, they divide it up by payer type. And so, we say, beer, wine, and liquor, or whatever it is. Well, that's bars and it's bars, but how which places are bars and which places are restaurants.
Right.
So is the Snag a bar or restaurant?
Bar.
Is a pizza, is the Front Bar a bar or restaurant?
Bar.
It's restaurant in resort tax. Is the Pub at the Pollard a bar or restaurant?
Neither.
It's a hotel.
Yeah.
So all of the resort tax that's paid for the Pub at the Pollard is paid as a hotel. Because we don't divide that up, and we don't tell the city where that income comes from, how it's divided in our reporting. So it all I'm assuming, and this is just an assumption because we don't specify it in any kind of form. So that's just being done on the city end. So those numbers of hotel, bar, restaurant are a little bit of, they could be off.
So about exactly a quarter of the resort tax comes from motels.
Yeah.
So we could say that that's coming from tourists, although that's a little misleading because of the pub.
Only because of the pub, which probably in that thing is, it's not significant, but but it exists. Yeah. I mean, and it's not just the pub, it's the dining room, it's the breakfast, it's the whole thing.
Well,
And then again, like,
are you
you buy a
certain?
margarita at Bogart's, that's restaurant money, not
Right.
bar money, right? So it's,
Is
you buy
that,
a snack burger, it's bar money, not.
is that how you report it for your
It's all-
taxes? Is
it's-
that how?
It's just not asked, we just say,
Oh, you
I just say Red Lodge Pizza Company gives this amount, and that's all.
There are some forms out there, and I can't remember if they were in West Yellowstone or Big Sky, where they actually break it all down by month, by category. It's very easy to adopt a different form. for
Yeah,
reporting.
and I don't think that would be
Interesting.
unreasonable.
Would that be something that helps marketing? To be
Oh, yeah.
able to
Oh,
know
It would, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just when the T-bid came out of the city, and we now have it monthly instead of quarterly, it's very important.
And
And we
it's,
all knew what it was,
and
but it's better than.
And it's also not, again, so, let's say, the Snow Creek sells bags of chips. They don't have to report that as food. They don't have to break things, you don't have to get so granular, but, you'd ask a business like the Pollard to break their, or even the pizza company to break beer, wine, and liquor,
Yeah.
with, alcohol sales versus food sales, which almost any business has to do anyway for insurance reporting things and all
Right.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
But
you're gonna
there's
have
also
your
like the town
books are
pump.
gonna be
I
done.
mean, they have
Yeah.
alcohol and they have fast food and then they have,
And I guarantee you, Town Pump can easily give you that thing, but you may wanna look at it, cause maybe it is a hardship for them, I know, and you might,
they get to keep the
You-
5%.
yeah, you might say, you might come up with a new category that's convenience stores.
Yeah.
Convenience stores and
Right.
grocery,
Well, that's not a bad idea.
so, does anybody have any idea where the IGA's items that are taxable are reported as?
Retail.
They're probably
Sure.
restaurant, right?
I'm sure it could be restaurants.
Like, we don't know, or
Deli food.
merchandise, or what, we don't know, but we don't know, and so, so you
Not
could,
hotel.
yeah, it's not a hotel, you don't know,
No, we don't know.
You don't know who's sleeping in the back room.
So there might be, and so you'd wanna make those reporting categories, you'd wanna talk to the merchants and say, what's easy for you to do?
Right.
I'm
And
gonna go talk to Rob and ask him.
you should, I think it would be, yeah,
Put that on the list.
you might make a category that is, and I think this would actually be an interesting breakout, is convenience store slash, convenience grocery,
Because we don't tax gas, so it's completely just the,
yes.
I mean,
It's
it's
just
Just
personal.
prepared foods.
And again,
Yeah.
if they sell
And pop.
a teddy bear or a t-shirt at the town pump,
But that's.
that can still go into convenience,
But it's a fountain pop, not a six-pack
No, it's pop.
pop, period.
Yeah, I thought it was pop and candy, pop in a bottle.
Pop in a bottle. You
Yeah.
can buy a 12-pack, and not be taxed.
Oh, really?
But you can buy, if you buy a bottle, a single, it's taxed.
But if you buy a 12-pack of alcohol, it's always taxed, right?
Alcohol's
Okay.
taxed.
I'm gonna stop buying bottles. No, it's like, that 3% on
I
that
know.
dollar.
Well, and I think that, at some point, I think we should not look at items as part of this process. Let me just say
Right.
that. I believe that at some point we probably should put that on, that should be a decision point that we make.
Right,
Is,
I just think we want to
as
make
this process, are we looking at the items or are we saying, no, if it's gonna continue, it will continue in the same, we're not gonna
Right.
vote, we're not gonna change what's taxed as we move forward. That can be done as another process.
I
Yeah,
would
because you will never,
recommend
you will
that
never
that
get,
get put on the agenda and voted on.
Yeah.
So that it's official, that things aren't gonna
Yeah.
change, because you go and tell people, no, they're not changing what the tax is.
Yeah, so
Right.
so can we put that on the agenda for next time?
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you want it?
Just, the
Taxable items.
taxable items discussion.
Okay.
And then someone can just make a motion that we
We're
should not
fine with
discuss
that.
taxable items in this process. Second it, and then we can be done with it.
Although we do wanna educate people so that they don't think that
Yeah, that's,
we are,
yeah.
I mean, that should be part of the education process.
Yeah.
That, you absolutely, if you absolutely don't wanna pay the resort tax, you don't.
how about before our next meeting, I'm gonna volunteer Tim for something. Do you wanna help compile survey questions?
Sure.
And so if you've got survey questions, we'll put an action items to develop the survey. And if you've got ideas or concepts, email them to Tim and we'll kind of get our list of possible survey questions and,
I did kind of write down stuff, Tim, as people were talking.
so what else do we need for action items so we can be done here by 7?
oh, I didn't realize it was that late.
Sounds fast, isn't it?
Is it?
What to do with the 1%
Mm-hmm.
is on our list. And I will just report from council end of it that we did have a discussion about the 1% and the stormwater. So we should probably make a list. But I know councils and the city staff are leaning towards the 1% for stormwater.
So the two items that have come up on the 1% so far that we've talked about are stormwater and the pool.
And now it appears that the way the final bill was written on the 1%, we could fund both.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I think maybe the question is does anybody know of, or if the council is pushing for stormwater, has there been any other suggestions besides these for a major capital improvement that would? Sidewalks. So let's just put that up there as an option. Yep.
That'd be a good question for the survey too.
Well, and interestingly enough, before the sidewalks and streets can be done, the stormwater.
It does, yeah.
And that's.
I mean, it's it all kind of, yeah.
But maybe that maybe that's the thing is that in the stormwater project, it's stormwater and it's streets, sidewalks, and infrastructure above the stormwater. So we're not just doing the stormwater and then having to fund.
Then revote again.
The stormwater project should include
Fixing sidewalks.
fixing stuff.
Driving.
Well, and building
Yeah,
new
driving
ones, I
lanes.
mean, there are no sidewalks on 19th Street, and that is awful.
Fixing our
It's all over
intersection,
town.
fixing all of our sidewalk things that the state messed up.
Well, that can't change until we fix the stormwater,
Yes.
and then the state will come through and fix
Fix
those
that.
unique corners.
Give us bump outs.
And just another there's a small group of people that are looking at a pool situation, so that's just getting started tomorrow.
A pool situation.
Well, it's there's a possibility that there may be an indoor pool added onto the high school.
Oh, that's what they were talking, yeah.
There's this group of people getting together tomorrow to discuss
I just
the
kind of,
logistic of it all.
how does that work when the school is locked up? I mean, would it become a public, I guess I would just, the whole life just.
The thing
I guess
is
that's
that
what you're
it's
gonna
just
talk
getting
about.
started in the discussion phase, and really Mark Brazich has kind of taken the lead with the whole thing, because that's his baby, and the pool was part of that baby. But he, in his mind, he is hoping that it will be a partnership between the city and the school. So the city would help pay during the summer, staffing and maintenance. So it's just beginning, but it's something to really explore.
Did we gotten an estimate on stormwater?
Yeah,
Was it our
11 million.
capital improvements, what is it, 11 million?
11 million.
Oh, buckets.
And
That's all right.
It's
Trust,
already
that's
done.
good, I just wanna do.
another thing is that the council is talking about is a stormwater utility fee that would be enhanced with the resort tax. Because even 1% wouldn't be enough to get us to the amount we would need to be grant funded.
Yeah, the 1%, if it was spread out over 25 years and we got enough grants, maybe we'd have it all done after 25 years of resort tax with the 1%. But we wouldn't get there unless we got quite a few grants from the state.
Right. So the discussion was adding in a utility fee.
I personally think we might be able to lower that number with the use of more detention bonds, but that'll be figured out later. I think
And we don't
can-
wanna wait 25 years for the.
Well, then
culverts
you
to
can
get
just
fixed.
roll down to whatever's next on
Yeah, I mean, if we have a list of like West Yellowstone did for the 1%.
They
Yeah.
had 5 items, right?
They did,
5.
they did.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, you know, what we see here, but you know, the other thing is that gives, you know, so let's say even, for example, the pool's a priority, right, and it falls off. You still have the ability with the other 3% to
Right,
fund the pool. It doesn't have to be funded with the 1%.
exactly. The
The 1% could be just the stormwater, and then you're not paying anything for stormwater out of the 3% potentially. You know, so that gives us some, you know, I was saying that 25 years, you're looking at somewhere, you know, what you're gonna say is that ideally you're gonna see increases, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, so if you say, let's say you average 300,000 over the next, you know, which probably would be more, but the 1% would be over 300,000, because we're already at, you know, 250 easily right now. And then you do that times the 25 years, that's 7.5 million. So that gets you something. And again, this is something that's bonded, and you're paying off those bonds with that. Or you know, you could be bonds or loans. However, you know,
But there's interest on that.
there's interest on
Can
that.
it be bonds and loans with the resort tax? Is that question?
It can be bonds and loans, yes.
Okay.
With the 1%, it cannot be bonds with the 3%.
Oh,
You
okay.
cannot use bonds on the 3%, only on the 1%.
Tom, I've got 4 action items.
Okay?
Number 1, median taxable value of homes.
Yep.
That's true.
Number 2 is what are significant wins with the resort tax.
Yep.
Number 3, Jody's gonna educate us on HubSpot.
Yeah.
And number 4 is survey questions with Tim.
That sounds great. So.
Is that all of them?
Yeah, so, James, can you work on helping to put together the wins list?
Mhm.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That only leaves somebody for number 1,
Which was,
median taxable value.
That was
Jeremy has
Jeremy.
that. Jeremy has that already,
He
yep,
can do that.
You just might need a reminder.
yeah.
That'll teach him not to come.
Well, he got that assigned when he was here.
Yeah. Yeah, he agreed to that.
Okay.
All right, I think we have had a good meeting.
So do you get that median price? Is that something that the city has, or?
I think it's something
Department
Department of
of
Revenue
Revenue.
has. I would bet that's a standard
That's what he
statistic
said.
they have.
Last
Is it, when I
time.
Yeah.
looked it up, it's 229.
Is that the median taxable value, or that's the median, yeah, that may be.
The 229,000.
That would be the median assessed value, yeah, so we could convert that.
Now, these are gonna be agenda items
Yeah.
later? Or do you want,
That, I mean, yeah.
I don't
Did you
think
get
so.
these?
Type out.
I didn't get all of them.
you're not gonna put them on agendas?
And it's slightly lower
Survey
than the
questions,
median
maybe?
price for
Let's
Montana.
see.
Okay,
Sorry to write them down. I didn't get them all.
interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Where did you find that?
Just, I searched it online,
Okay,
and there was a, I can't
Well, you can
remember
put
the
an
name of the
agenda
website
item
now, but it had
Action.
everybody.
Items, and then
okay.
subcategories would be these.
I might take these home and
that would be
Well,
wonderful,
yeah.
yeah, that'd be great,
Value.
that'd be wonderful.
and then
We could have.
make
that
our
discussion.
task list smaller.
HubSpot,
Yeah, I guess I
Yeah,
better
yeah.
find it, but I'll.
Discussion, I don't-
yeah,
the-
we
the-
I can
typed
copy
it,
it.
put it on there.
Right.
Okay, when is our next meeting?
We had set a date.
We did.
I think it's October
All right.
2nd, or?
That would be today.
This year's going by too fast.
I know, it is, I agree.
like, not in October.
Did y'all
October
get
21st,
the email
11:31.
from the Montana Department of Commerce talking about Main Street
Right, we were
projects?
gonna have a
No.
meeting October 21st,
11:30.
11:31.
There's grants coming out.
October 31st?
That's the picture.
Not-
11:30 to 1, is that what you said?
Yeah, it's during lunch, 11:30.
October 21st,
Wow.
What day of the week is that?
Monday.
Main Street infrastructure grants.
How much are they? This website does not convert very well.
You can forward it to yourself. I think there's links to get you to.
I might, send you out a list to like perceived negatives and perceived positives.
Oh, I'm
if
sorry,
People
James,
just wanna
did you finish writing?
ask around
Yep, I
or
did.
send me some information. So,
Hey, we got a comment here.
uh-oh.
Seems like it's going well and progressing.
Yay.
It's from Stephanie Naftel.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.